What happened over there? I don't know what happened over there. Something just went wrong. David?
Where are you going, Mark? Where are you going? Where are you going? Oh, that's great, Mons. Fine, enjoy. Nice to see you. Thanks very much. Yes.
Welcome. Thank you for joining our Pirkei Avos Shiur. Le'ilu Nishmat Harav Avraham Chaim ben Eliezer Yaakov Zecher Tzadik Livracha and Goldie Miriam ben Avraham Chaim Zichrona Livracha. May they intercede on behalf of all of us. Over to you, Dov.
Pirkei. Mishnah Beis. We started the Mishnah last week. We'll just continue it and see how we go on it. The Mishnah says, we'll gently recap for a few moments. Rabban Gamliel, Benoisha Rabbi Yehuda Hanossi Oimer. Rabban Gamliel, introduced as the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanossi, he gave a message that was really two shiurim. First one was Yafet Talmud Torah im Derech Eretz. Talmud Torah needs this other quality called Derech Eretz in order for it to be in its finest form. And Yafet Talmud Torah im Derech Eretz. Sheyegias Shenehem Mashkachas Ovin. By toiling in the two of them, Aveira will be mashkachas, it will be forgotten. It's an interesting question. What on earth does it mean? Aveiras will be forgotten. Now, we discussed at some length last week what is Torah im Derech Eretz. And there were at least three important things. Derech Eretz, as you know, means parnasa. It has to be sustainable. Number two, it has to be normal, a Torah's Chaim. In order to be a Ben Torah, a Talmud Chacham, one doesn't have to escape life. He engages life, but keeps his focus. Right. And Derech Eretz means midas, good old-fashioned Derech Eretz, as they say. And Yegias Shneim Mashkachas Ovin. That's important to note. The Vilna Gaon and his great Talmud, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, in his Sefer Ruach Chaim, he says that this Mishnah is not coming to tell us, like we said last week, that your Torah requires this balance of Derech Eretz in all its forms, in one of its forms. Rather, he's saying, Yafet Torah im Derech Eretz. He said, Derech Eretz needs to be accompanied by Torah. As important as it is to work for a parnasa, if that's all a person is doing, something is missing. The real drama of life, as the Chofetz Chaim said, is not your parnasa. Ironically enough, we live in a career century. We live in a period of history probably more career-orientated than ever. He said the real drama of your life plays out in your relationship between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in your spiritual contribution, in facing your spiritual, your moral challenges in your life. That's the real drama of life. And therefore, our mission comes to say, Yafeh Talmud Torah im Derech Eretz. Why are you working? Why are you working? In between patients, in between customers, in between clients. Heilige Yidden throughout the millennia kept a sefer with them, a Mishnah Brura, a Tehillim, and Yafeh Talmud Torah im Derech Eretz. It's very good when the Torah accompanies your Derech Eretz. And then we touched on that enigmatic line, Yegias Shneim, when you have this combination of Torah plus a real engagement with life, with all your senses, with all your capabilities, not only your mentals. We're not a society of mentalists or intellectuals. Torah is much, much deeper, much broader, much more inclusive than simply intellective. It's not an intellective activity. It's got to be learned with your whole life. And Yegias Shneim, when a person engages with both of them, mashkachas avon, then sin is forgotten. Mashkachas avon. It's a very important line. Do you know what it means? It means that sin is never meant to be, what's the word? Ideally, you're never meant to overcome sin. You're meant to forget about it. It's not something that you're supposed to be in the firing line and then through heroic efforts, you manage to save yourself. That's not ideal. Ideally is mashkachas. You have to such an elevated lifestyle, such an engaged lifestyle as a whole personality. You've got no space left. You're not thinking about that. And the Kotzker Rebbe said, he said to his Talmidim, he said, I don't expect you not to have a desire to sin. Obviously not. I expect you to be too busy for Avos. But our Mishnah is telling us in one word, look at that, mashkachas Avos. It should be forgotten. There should be so much on your plate that's positive that it's not something you're thinking of. If you find yourself dwelling on it, you've got to get more busy. Clear sign, get busy. Engage more of your koiches. There's more of you that needs to be exercised for Torah, for Yiras Shamayim. You might have thought that the Torah is so vast, so deep, so complex, and it has such a holiness about it. One might have thought that the best way to become a Talmid Chacham is to become an ascetic. Take a few Sforim and go hide out in the mountain somewhere, speak to no one, hear no one, and that's where you'll find Torah. And that's what our Mishnah is coming to say. Nein, it's not like that. You know why it's not like that? Because Torah needs siyata d'ishmaya. Ultimately, whatever you achieve in your learning, in your Yiddishkeit, in your spiritual world, it's a gift from Shamayim. It's a gift from Hashem. For that, the more engaged you are with Klal Yisrael, the better you're going to do. So it's ironic. You're not meant to escape. Escaping is not going to be better for you. It's not going to be better because good research means, as they say, keep your door open so you hear what the real issues are. But it also means you'll have a greater success because you have more siyata d'ishmaya. As Dad used to say in the name of his Rosh Hashiva V'Edemei Bloch, by teaching more, you'll do better in your own learning. And he had a Masorah from Rabbi Yashiv. He heard directly from Rabbi Yashiv, the Posek of Ador. Teaching, he says, is the key to growing at every level. Start teaching, it will force you to grow. It will bring out koiches. It was even suggested about Rabbi Yashiv by one of his peers who had been in kollel with him as a young man. It was a brilliant kollel that produced an astounding number of giants. And one of them said about Rabbi Yashiv that in his opinion, what separated Rabbi Yashiv from the rest of the group was the fact that his whole adult life, he delivered a daily shir to, started off as balabatim. Eventually the crowd became more and more scholarly as the decade went on, but he never stopped till the end of his life. 6 days a week, he gave an hour shir to balabatim, and he just had to clarify the issue. So he said, in learning how to convey, crystallize, clarify complex issues in the most elemental skeletal form, that's what made him Rabbi Yashiv. Well, it's one way of looking at it. And then the Mishnah said, Torah she'ein ima malacha, sofa b'tayla. Torah that doesn't have malacha with it, the Torah itself is going to be batel and causes of when Torah requires malacha. Torah requires an integrated, a articulated and expressed personality. Torah is not mono. It's not something, it's just amounts of information put into the head. It's not how Torah works. Torah requires that you be a mensch amongst menschen. And in that, you acquire your Torah. If not, the Torah itself won't have key. Bits of information are for computers. They can store it much better than us. Dad used to quote the famous scientist, Jewish scientist, who said he doesn't even like to remember his own phone number if he could, because anything that's written down, it's a waste of time to remember it. Look it up. The mind is for more creative ideas. It said, Torah she'ein imam Malacha, it causes betela. You need Torah, you need it, it requires a normalcy. A malacha. Malacha means that your learning has to be similar to the way professionals run their business. If you will approach your own learning with the same seriousness, the same focus that you approach your professional career, your professional business engagement, that will be a Torah that has kiyum. Torah sheyesh imam malacha. It's a Torah that is held to a standard. And again, all these things, you would think that Torah is a pure intellectual thing, and you learn when you feel up to it, when you don't feel that you won't. No, it's not the way Torah is meant to be. It has to be pursued with professional commitment. Now, that's the end of Chelik Aleph of the Mishnah. Chelik Beis of the Mishnah, it's very interesting because it almost seems to have little to do with Chelik Aleph. Let's learn it. So again, it's Rabbi Gamliel speaking, and he says as follows. V'chol ha'oiskim im hatzibur, and all those who toil with the tzibur, with Klal Yisrael, yiyu oiskim imohem l'shem shamayim. They should engage, they should exert themselves for the tzibur, for Klal Yisrael, for the sake of heaven. Shezechus avoisam mesayatam. It's enigmatic. The zechus of their forefathers aids them. V'tzidkosam omedes la'ad. Again, enigmatic. And their righteousness will endure forever. V'atem, and you, ma'aleh ani aleichem sachar harbei ke'ilu asisem. Hashem says, I will bestow great reward upon you as if you had accomplished it on your own. It's a series of 4 enigmatic statements, and it's tzarich what they mean, and tzarich what's the connection to the first part of the Mishnah, which after all was a magnificent crystallization of the ethos of Ben Torah through his learning and through his engagement with life at every level: normal family life, normal social life, normal economic pursuit, normal engagement in Torah with focus. Altogether, that's the Ben Torah. Now, how did he move on to speak about V'chol ha'oiskim im hatzibur? Why did Rabbi Gamliel, the last of the Tanoim, see fit to combine these 2 Mishnayos? They seem to be 2 completely different Mishnayos. This one is an ethos of oiskim im hatzibur, those who are public officials who work in the public. What on earth is the connection between them? It's a very good question. I don't even know a very good answer, but I'll tell you what thought came to my mind. It came to my mind that part of your faculties that you need to express as part of your contribution to Torah, part of your engagement in Torah, should be an engagement with the tzibur. Whatever level of Torah a person has achieved should not be kept only for himself. Hashem doesn't give Torah to yechidim. He gave the Torah to a nation. We are all part of this Torah. And therefore, part of the normalcy of Torah is don't be such a proud person. Part of the normalcy of Torah, success in Torah, empowerment of Torah, I don't just mean for famous Rabbanim, I mean for each of us in our own lives. Part of the success of Torah, its transmission through the generations, is this engagement. It must be used somehow for the benefit, for the betterment of Klal Yisrael. And therefore, they go together. He didn't expect any less. You're a Talmid Chacham, you've been learning. You're a balabos, and you're an engaged balabos. Who else is going to do tzibur work? Tzibur work belongs, it's an extension of your Torah. It's that important, incredible. And we'll see it in a few moments. I think it will come up again. The Tana Devei Eliyahu, the Brisa taught by Eliyahu the prophet to one of the Tanoim. Eliyahu Novi says, Hashem has 2 loves in this world. In Olam Hazeh. He loves Torah and he loves Klal Yisrael. And the Tana asked Eliyahu Hanovi, which one does Hashem prefer? It's a profound question. They'll ask me, which is more important? Being good to Klal Yisrael, what they call being a mensch, that we mean it as part of a Klal Yisrael mensch, or learning Torah. Which takes preference? And Eliyahu Hanavi gave perhaps a counterintuitive answer. He said, Ahavas Yisrael. Hashem loves Israel more. It's incredible. I don't know what it means, but what I've always thought that it means is that Hashem's business in this world, so to speak. He has a business. And our job is to work in his business, to be part of his business. Hashem's business, so to speak, in this world, the vehicle of his business is Klal Yisrael. This is his people. And for this, he gave a Torah for this nation to carry this Torah through history, to learn his Torah, to be engaged in it, to forge a relationship with him through his Torah. And the two are inseparable. God's Baruch Hu and his two loves, Torah and Klal Yisrael, they are one. They are the vehicles through which, so to speak, Hashem is Megale, the Shechina in this world. That's his business. And therefore, Torah and looking after Klal Yisrael go together. It says, Rabbi Gamliel says, all those who toil for the tzibur should do it l'shem shamayim. Very interesting. Why here? Why not in this is all mitzvahs. When you take a lulav, it should be l'shem shamayim. When you say shema, it should be l'shem shamayim. We don't find mishnayos that say that. Here it says, perhaps the answer is as simple as that communal life lends itself to powerful egos using it as a ring, a place in which to aggrandize themselves. It's natural for that. They're powerful people, they're capable people. This is a way of expressing themselves, and they use it as their own podium. That's not what Avodas HaTzibur is about. Avodas HaTzibur is not about you. It's not about your ego. Avodas HaTzibur is about them. And more importantly, it's about Hashem. They are Hashem's people. L'shem shamayim. It doesn't say work for them, not for your ego, for them. It says work for them for the name of Shamayim. Understanding that Klal Yisrael is Hashem's vehicle. They are Hashem's people in this world. It's his vision, this nation Israel. It's holy. It's his business. Do it for him. Leave Klal Yisrael not for your own ego, for him. Not because it's good for your CV to be involved in a charity or a school, because it's Hashem's business. The most important business in the world. It's the most important commodity in the world. It's the most important place in the world to make a contribution. Torah and Klal Yisrael. When a person works with this, it gives him a longer view. He doesn't have to take the slight of public life so personally. I heard Dad say so many times, famous one, mit darf kennen, schlungen, or mit darf wissen, schlungen. A person in communal life and public life has to know how to swallow. If someone said something, if someone didn't say something, you got hurt, put it away, just carry on. Being a public figure, being an educator, being a Rav, means you're being a servant of this people. This people insist that you're going to be nice to them and even put up with them. Moshe Rabbeinu himself had to put up with a lot, as we know from the Midrashim. This understanding that I'm not in it for me, a person should never go into it for himself, because you can get more abuse than covered. Dad had a great story about that. I won't say it now, another time. But Dad did say these words, and I heard them on many occasions from him. Sof. And after 60 years in the position, you work through a lot of different committees, a lot of personalities, a lot of egos. And I must say, some of his very nearest, dearest, greatest friends who assisted him and were very much part of every contribution that he made were in those groups. And sometimes, it's inevitable there's going to be clashes. He never took them personally. You know what he said? Sof. We work for Hashem, we work for Klal Yisrael. You don't work for this chairman, that chairman, this governing body, that governing body. They don't work for these parents. He loves them all. But soft, we work for Hashem. It's his business. We work for Klal Yisrael. And for Klal Yisrael, I must take a bit of a clap. I'll do it. It's worth it for Klal Yisrael. It gives a certain depth, gives an ability to withstand. Abba had that. And he got it from this. Not working locally, going to the office for a paycheck for that. No, it's not that immediate. This is a life direction. We're talking about cosmic business. It's much bigger than how I'm feeling today. It was almost a mantra for Abba. We're working for Klal Yisrael, for Hashem. Don't take it so personally. And the other nafka of that, you're not doing it. Hashem's doing it. It's not your accomplishment. It's his. And don't think that it's yours. Don't take the credit for yourself. It's a bzchus to be involved. These are all words that I heard Dad say so many times. And he says part of that is we never get weary because it's Hashem's business. We don't get disillusioned. It's Hashem's business. It's like learning Torah. This is another way of learning Torah. It's a great learning of Torah. Continues the Mishnah, bzchus avosam sayatom. When you achieve for Klal Yisrael, don't pin success on yourself. It's the bzchus of the Tzibur's ancestors, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, according to the Maharal. They are davening for the success of their progeny. And anyone who helps their children, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they will seek the benefit as well. Because the greatest gift you can give to a father is to look after his son, to look after his children. So the bzchus of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov will be there for you because the Avos appreciate when you do something for their children. Dad never claimed he had done anything special. I never heard him say the words, after all I've done for the tzibur, never. Alien words to him. And even when people started talking about what great achievements he has, that was already after the first 25 years, about achievements and world-class achievements. He dismissed it and he always said, what did I do? I did nothing. I was just in the right place at the right time. All siyata d'shmaya. Never was my accomplishment. It wasn't just humility. He's giving an attitude how you deal with Klal Yisrael. It's not yours. You're working for Hashem. You're working for them and their holy ancestors. Sometimes he used to say, of course, it was if people pushed him and said, what was the bzchus of your success? Sometimes he would say, in the bzchus of the elderly, his parents and grandparents, and especially he would put it down to my mother's, bless her, parents and grandparents. In their bzchus, he said, maybe in their bzchus, we achieved something, but not of our doing. Again, not just being humble, telling you this is the fabric of working for Klal Yisrael. And you who are working for the tzibur, Hashem says, I will give you a lot of reward as though you had done something. What on earth does this mean? As though you had done something. On the one level, it means I'm going to give you the reward, Rabbi Tanzer, as though you had truly built it by your own hands. I know that you never felt that you built it by your own hands. I know you never felt that you impacted on every person you ever met. But Hashem said, it's yours. I'm giving you the credit for it. The Rambam and the Meiri say something astounding. Even if there were certain mitzvahs which you couldn't do as well as you would have liked to do because you were involved with the tzibur, so you think, well, I lost out. Hashem says, you've got that too. It's a conversation I had with Dad so many times. He would say, you know what, sof, I regret not having learned more. So I said, well, Abba, you learned a lot. Dad, you learned a lot. What do you mean? He said, yeah, I know, but I was more involved in community development, and therefore my learning had to, in some ways, suffer. So I said, yeah, but look at the people you built. Look how many Talmud. I remember the one Talmud, a beloved friend of mine and beloved Talmud of Dad, who had published a few Sfarim, and he said, you picked me up out of a town in, I think, the Eastern Transvaal, the Free State. In the Free State, you picked me up, a lad from the Free State, and you dropped me off in the yeshivas in Yerushalayim, and all this is yours. I remember he got so much joy from it. That Abba, this is all the learning that has come, it's all yours. That's what the Mishnah is saying. If you didn't manage to learn because you were building Torah, you didn't learn as much as you wanted to. It's all yours. You will have that tzachar. It's yours as well. That's the special bzchus of working for Klal Yisrael. And as I say, I think it's because Klal Yisrael and Torah together are Hashem's vehicle. So if you're developing Torah in this great nation, that's called Hashem's Torah. That's Hashem's Torah. Gadol ha'ma'aseh yosim enoiseh. Someone who brings other people to great achievements has even greater reward than the person who actually achieves those. Part of the reason is because the person who achieves it has the direct pleasure of having achieved it. The person who brings you to that, he doesn't have that. Rabbi Tanzer had both of them. He used to say, but I could have learned more. As I said, we had this discussion. Klal Yisrael is Torah. And we say it in Shabbos, Kol ha'oskim b'tzorchet tzibur be'emunah, all those who toil for Klal Yisrael in good faith, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yeshalem Sacharim. We give them a bracha in the tzibur every Shabbos. Hashem shall repay their reward. Yeshalem Sacharim. Question is obvious. Why wouldn't Hashem pay the reward? It mean pay the reward of anything else that they gave up for the Torah. They're going to have that too. Hashem. Thank you very much. A good evening and a good, safe, healthy week for all our communities and all our families.
It was really, truly profound and beautiful. Thanks to Rav Tov. Have a good night.
Bye.